Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Pitch Perfect with Michael Gonsalves. I believe I pronounced it right, Mike.
It's perfect.
Awesome, thank you. So, Michael works with Sounding Board as an account executive. Mike G, as he's widely known, is a sales and performance coach with a passion for empowering sales teams and leaders to thrive both professionally and personally. Through his keynotes, workshops, and one to one coaching, Mike has inspired sales teams and organizations globally to unlock a lot of opportunities, build stronger pipelines, and achieve greater success. Beyond professional excellence, he is deeply committed to fostering health, happiness, and fulfillment in the lives of those he works with. With experience spanning from startups to Fortune 500 companies across various industries, Mike brings a wealth of knowledge and unique perspective to the table. His coaching focuses on creating sustainable habits and processes that drive measurable results, more opportunities, stronger pipelines, and more close to wins. Can you believe that? He continues to leave a lasting impact on sales professionals striving to reach their full potential. Welcome, Mike. Welcome to Pitch Perfect by Mitricot.
Appreciate that, Pramod. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for being on our podcast. Really happy to have you here. So, probably let's start with a sounding board. Can you share a bit about what the company does and what your role is there, and how do you contribute to driving growth and performance at Sounding Board?
Sure. And again, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure and an honor. So, Sounding Board. So, Sounding Board has been around since 2016 and about eight years or so now, delivering coaching for organizations, whether it's at the manager level, whether it's at the senior leader level, or whether it's at the executive level. So, providing coaching across different levels in the organization, leadership development, and so that's what the company specializes in to help drive leader development. And so that's the role that I'm an account executive, as you mentioned there for Sound and Board. I've been in the space essentially for the last 20 plus years, aging myself a little bit, but been in the space for a good 20, 22 years or so in some capacity or another, doing the coaching, being coached, total rewards. And now I find myself in coaching for Sounding Board. And so that's the role I currently reside in there.
That's amazing, amazing, Mike. I mean, it's really brilliant, right? I mean, you have been into coaching, and now you are also driving sales at Sounding Board, which is all about coaching, right? I mean,
Correct.
that's amazing, Mike. I found something really interesting about you. You're an ultra marathon runner, right?
I am.
Such a feat of endurance, amazing. I used to do a bit of running, but I wanted to understand how long have you been running, and how does your regimen look like, the training regimen?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been active. Sports and has always been a big part of who I am, and so, but running, specifically running, right, races, half marathons, ultra marathons. It actually started back in 2013. Excuse me, not 2013, 2006, and I actually first did it. Just a quick story behind that. My dad, who unfortunately I lost back then to
Mm,
cancer,
I'm
I
sorry.
actually, thank you. I actually started running. It was an outlet for me to go and run. It was just my way of kind of dealing with everything going on, and so I just began running. And so I figured, well, why don't I just make this a little bit more, make it something like, so it's not just running. And I'm like, why don't I just do some races and make it a little bit more exciting. There's people out there. It's a bit of an accomplishment. And so that's where it began. I actually started in 2006, and so I did my very first long race, which is a half marathon here in San Diego. And I don't know, I just kind of fell in love with it. The regimen of it, and the push, being uncomfortable, and but also at the end of it, the result you get and how good you feel, and then others as well, right? Doing it along with you, the race day, et cetera. And so I just really fell in love with that. And so, as with anything else, like, hey, I wonder if I can do a little bit more. And then here I am trying out a marathon, and hey, what if I could do a little bit more? And here's a 50 miler, et cetera. So that's kind of what got me into running. And till this day, I really enjoy it for a lot of reasons. Physically, yes, but also a lot of it is from a mental perspective.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Mike. Even I feel the same. Looks like you started your running and as a coach almost at the same time, about 19, 20 years ago. It's really interesting, right? Uh, but I just wanted to understand. See, ultra marathons require immense discipline, while sales often probably involve in adapting on the fly to prospects schedules. How do you balance the structured discipline to training with the dynamic nature of the sales?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities. I mean, and that's the beauty of whether it's running, whether you're keeping a, whether you do yoga regularly or Pilates or something that requires consistency, discipline, putting in the work. I think it just serves you, right? And so for me, it just happens to be running. And so what you have to do, right, to train for a half or a full marathon or an ultra marathon, it does require consistency, discipline, focus, a regimen. It it includes getting uncomfortable, not always feeling your best. And that applies directly to sales. I mean, right? It is uncomfortable sometimes with sales, meaning folks are not getting back to you. They're hanging up on you. You lose a deal. There's pressure on you. There's a lot, but throughout all that, you have to remain consistent with your prospecting, with your follow-ups, right? There has to be discipline to make the calls, send the emails, and the focus has to be on what you're out to achieve, right? So there this one helps the other. And so I think if you can, that's why I always encourage folks, hey, if you're right, I don't care if it's running, I don't care if it's going to the gym, I don't care if it's something Pilates, something along the lines where it's going to kind of hold you accountable, having you put in the work, because it really does trickle over into all other aspects of your life. And sure, sales for sure, because that's the work that I do. That's the work that I coach, the coaching clients I work with, but also across all aspects, your health, your relationships, et cetera. And so there's definitely overlap with what I do with my running, right, training, and um, how that helps impact me in a positive way when it comes to sales.
Very inspiring, Mike. I mean, I really loved what you said. I mean, because I personally do a bit of running as well. So, I mean, not as much as you, but this also gives me an understanding on how I should also balance my work as well as my physical activity. Very interesting. So, I mean, since we're also talking about a lot of coaching, let's talk about properly coaching. What inspired you to venture into sales performance coaching, and how was your journey? You shaped your approach over the years.
What inspired me is, look, I didn't have the very best coaches. I didn't have the very best training. I think, especially early off in my formidable years, right? Those early years where I wanted to be good, I wanted to excel, I wanted
Mhm.
to learn, and look, I don't say this for sympathy or pity, but I did not have good leaders to kind of, again, at the beginning, I ultimately found them, thank goodness, along the way, which really shaped me to be who I am today. But at the very beginning, I didn't have that. If anything, it was terrible. It was almost like it was training through fear, intimidation, and making you stand up in front of the whole, the entire sales team and delivering your pitch and tearing you down on how, like, almost to some extent almost making fun of you, right? And if you ask me, and again, this is back in the early 2000s, and so maybe that was a little bit more acceptable. Maybe that's the way it was. But honestly, when you're trying your best, and you want to get good, you want to do really well, that's not the way to encourage folks to get better, right? You want to encourage, you want to provide support, you want to provide feedback, constructive feedback in a way that's going to help you, right? Not like hinder you and make you feel reserved and not want to get up there because you're afraid of what's going to be thrown at you, and you being made fun of and not supported. And so I began thinking there's got to be another way. This can't be the way to train sales professionals, right? And I figured if I feel it this way, others must feel that way too. And so I began down that path, really starting to chat with my fellow colleagues at the time, chat with other sales professionals, which, by the way, they were feeling the same way. So we just started on our own, kind of just exploring different ideas of how we could get better without those tactics, with better tactics. And then you realize when you get into that conversation, you realize, well, there's a lot more behind the scenes. There's a lot more going on. And right, all of a sudden it became like, well, okay, I'm getting better at sales, but man, I'm just not taking care of myself now, right? From
Hello.
here we go. Can you hear me now, Pramod?
Yeah, I can hear. I
Okay.
think I
I
lost
think
you for a
I lost you for a
Yeah.
second. And so
Yeah.
you get, once you go down that path, you start to realize, look, there's other parts that are missing here, right? Great. I'm getting better with my sales, but my health is not as great as it should be because now all of a sudden I'm not taking care of myself, or I'm kind of skimping on my relationships with my significant other, my kids. And so that opened up a whole nother realm where like we need to take care of this. And so little by little over the years, I formulated my coaching, my performance coaching, sales and performance coaching to really encompass all of that aspect. Yes, you want to be good at sales. You want to keep getting better. There's a way to do that in an effective way, but also not to lose sight of your personal life too, to make sure all of a sudden, great, you're killing it at work, but you're also killing your health and your relationships and your fulfillment, and that's gone down the tube. So I don't believe that's the way it should be. I don't believe it has to be that way. Where it used to be for the longest time, right? Well, you sacrifice. That's the way it goes to some extent, not to that full extent. And so that's kind of how my overall sales and performance coaching over the years has evolved to say, look, it's a lot more than just sales. Yes, more opportunity, more pipeline, more close wins, but also more health, more happiness, more fulfillment. They can coexist. They should coexist, in my opinion.
I mean, I definitely resonate with what you, Mike, brilliantly said. I just wanted to understand how do you define a culture of sales excellence? What steps can an organization take to build and sustain it? Just want to thought, your
Yeah,
thoughts.
we could talk on this specific topic for hours. Um, Building a culture of excellence begins with each person. I call it, building leaders of one, right? Leaders of one. So whenever I work with organizations, I want to work with them as a whole, but also individually, because I call it leaders of one, meaning each individual owning their part in that overall team, right? Like for example, you take any sports team, every individual is responsible for their role, right? To making sure they're getting their workouts in, studying the playbook, making the catch on the field. They're responsible for their role. And as collectively, they win together when they do that, right? And so when I go into an organization, I make sure we do that with each individual, meaning I have them clearly define their goals, set their habits, make sure they're setting themselves up for, hey, what am I committed to doing regularly, and then also holding them accountable. There's a way, again, there's a whole process that goes into it, but also how do we stay motivated along the way, right? So there's a process
Mm.
that I work with each individual, and they create this roadmap for themselves. And if each individual takes care of themselves collectively, you can't help but win as you go. And so a culture of excellence really includes that, making sure you're focusing on each individual. And so that's how I work. Now, if I could give you a simple, if I can give any organization out there, especially sales teams, sales leaders,
Mhm.
a tip, it would be this. I wish I could implement this immediately across the globe. And you've probably seen this, Pramod. When in a sales room, there's a leaderboard, right? There's a leaderboard with all the names and what they sold, and you're keeping individual statistics. And I kind of get it, but I think it's time we end that, because again, let's go back to a sports team. Show me one team's locker room you go into, football, baseball, basketball, where in the locker room there's an individual chart that shows, hey, you had 3 catches, hey, you had 16 assists. That doesn't exist. Collectively, they are looking to win a championship, right? A national title, the Super Bowl. And so collectively, so there's no chart that shows who's excelling, who's not. The goal is for everyone to excel, and together you're going to win together. And so how about we do this? How about as sales leaders and organizations, we get rid of that leaderboard and we put up the, hey team, as collectively we're going to hit 10 million. We're going to hit 10 million this year as a group. Let's go. And if you want to give me a chart, put 10 million and show me, hey, how are we doing as a team as we go, month by month, quarter by quarter. And as a team, let's look at how we're doing. Because at the end of the day, that's how you get there as a team collectively. And so if I had to suggest one thing for all sales leaders is start to do that, because I'll
Yeah.
leave it at this. Every once in a while, right? You take a team, you can take your greatest player. They're going to have a bad game, maybe two bad games. Someone else picks up the slack, right? It's no different in sales. So make it a team environment.
It's more like let's climb up together. It's step by step, uh, like account by account, quarter by quarter. We just finish it and then achieve what we wanted as a team. I mean, this is amazing, Mike. I mean, I really like the way you put as with that analogy of the game. I mean, using the sports, I really loved it. I think as you said, it should be implemented everywhere where they connect to the team effort so that there is not an individual fights as well within the team. Maintaining that excellence in the culture of their whole team is really really important, and I strongly say yes to what you said, Mike.
And if I could add to
Really
that,
love.
Pramod, one more thing, because sometimes the pushback is like, well, if that's the case, and others are going to slack because they're
Mhm.
just letting the leaders do all the work, and you're just kind of going along for the ride. That's not the case. Well, then you need to make the decision as a leader to say, hey, who belongs here, who doesn't. That's a whole different discussion. But if you're working with each individual, right, their why they're
Mm.
there, making sure their goals are set, their habits are set, they know what keeps them motivated, keeping them accountable. They're right. We said creating leaders of one. So if you do that correctly, and that's the work that I do, you don't have to worry about anyone on your team not pulling their own weight, if you will. They're all there to win. They might have a good day, bad day, but they're all there to win. No one's there to be last on. They're all giving their all. And so you can rest assured that everyone's giving their all. And so if you create that kind of team, you can't help but win.
Interesting, Mike. Very, very interesting. Mike, I just have a very curious question.
Mm.
It's been about 20 years you are into coaching. How was it when you started, and how did you see the whole progress in 20 years? So, what is that I've been thinking while you were actually telling me is like, see, when you started as a coach, back then the tech or there is not lot of advancement in the tech as well, and you're also in the beginning stages of where you started as a coach, and now there is an advancement and you have a lot of experience in it. Like, how did you see the whole journey with advancements plus how coaching evolved as an individual, as a team? How do you see that?
So let me make sure I'm understanding the question. How have I seen coaching evolve? I want to make sure I'm understanding the question
Yes,
correctly. I
yes,
think
yes, that's right.
you mean specifically in sales coaching, or coaching as just an overall industry
In sales coaching, I just
sales
wanted to
coaching?
understand.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's going to be, right. This is the beauty of coaching. There's going to be different philosophies, right? Different approaches to what sales coaching may look like, right? My approach might not be similar to someone else's sales coaching, and that's okay, right? There's a different flavor for different folks, right? Um, what the way I've seen it evolve, because this is what I've seen, right, over my 20 plus years of experience, is more focus on not just the professional coaching and focus. Like you can't just be successful professionally without also giving focus to personally. How are you doing personally? You can't. And I'd love to have the conversation if someone says, "Hey, you can be killing it and thriving professionally and have a crappy personal life. Your health's going down the tubes, like you're not, sticking to your own, your own goals in your personal life. Those can't. You're not going to be overall. One's going to impact the other, or you're doing really well professionally. It's one impacts the other. And so what I've learned over the years is, and this is a big awakening for me when I started to realize, and this thankfully for to the help of my coaches that I've had over the years, it's like, Mike, you need to also focus on you and what fulfills you and what brings you happiness, and what are the things you're going to do to make sure you're taking care of you, because if you're not, what you're not taking care of personally is going to impact you professionally, and they couldn't have been more right. And so that's when my coaching started to change and evolve to say, hey, I'm not just going to work with you on your pipeline and how to build opportunity and how to close deals, all that's all important, but also, hey, when you're not working, what are you doing for you? Are you exercising? What are your goals there? What's important to you? I call it, just really quickly, Pramod, whenever I work with my clients, I have my 5 F's. I call it the 5 F's, right? Five to thrive, which is faith, fitness,
Mhm.
family, finances, and fun. Just to keep it easy, 5 F's. And I always ask, let's break those five down with each individual to make sure in their own personal life, how are they addressing each one of those? And they might have one or two others that they want to add into the mix, but at least those five. And by the way, when I say faith, I don't just mean like religious faith, nothing wrong with that. I just mean overall gratitude, awareness of what you have, what you've been blessed with. And so awareness there, right? And then you can the rest make sense, right? Fitness, are you taking care of yourself, family, what are you doing for your relationships, finances, are you taking care of yourself financially, and then fun, you have to have fun. And so
Of
those
course.
elements must be included in your overall strategy to be killing it as a sales executive. You can't have one without the other. That's been my my realization.
That's amazing, Mike. I mean, the way you put the 5 F's is really nice. I mean, I think balancing out is very, very important, irrespective of what role, either it is sales or marketing or whatever it is, right? I think this is very nice. So I just wanted to understand, in your experience, like, what are those standout habits of top performing sales professionals that set them apart, and any statistics or probably stories that you could highlight for us?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that come to mind when I look at the top sales professionals as far as how they're able to continue to win, right? Continue to bring in deals. If you look at what those habits are, and that word's important, they're habits. Their habits don't change because look, the economy can change, the overall landscape could change. There could be, layoffs. Maybe you don't have all the resources. It's a matter of focusing on the things that you have control over, and that's your
Mm-hmm.
habits. Meaning, and let's keep it simple, if I'm a sales exec, right, and I know I need to do my prospecting, how many calls am I committed to making every day? It's really that simple, right? How many emails am I committed to sending out every day? How much time am I going to spend getting better? Like meaning, like let me listen to a sales call. Let me have a conversation with one of the other AEs who just closed $1 million deal. What are they doing? So it's this dedicated time to these habits that are making you better, the things that you can control. The one thing that I don't like, Pramod, and I ask sales leaders whenever I work with them to not focus on, and you've probably seen this too, when, I've been part of this too, when, you have a sales huddle at the beginning of the day. All right, guys, what are we focusing on today? And, some folks will say, oh, well, I'm going to set 3 meetings. And look, I have no problem with that. I'm all for, right? I'm all for manifesting, putting it out there and having something to shoot for. I'm all for that. But it's almost like the same as someone saying in sports, "What's your goal for today's practice?" You know what? I'm gonna win the Super. I want to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, we know it's there, but the goal for the day is like I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna run my routes to the best of my ability. If the ball's thrown to me, I'm gonna catch it. All the things that I have full control over. And so when you ask me, what do I look at when I see the top sales professionals? What are they doing? They have their habits and they stick to them religiously. They're not focused on what they don't have, what resources, etc. What do I have control over? And then what am I committed to doing daily, if not Monday through Friday during my work week, and sticking to that? It's a commitment. You stick to that. I'm a sports guy, of course, right? The late, great Kobe Bryant used to always say, look, I made a commitment with myself. Every single day, this is what I'm doing. It's not a matter if I want to, if I'm feeling like it, if I don't. That's not up for discussion. This is what I've committed to doing, and I don't care what comes. This is what I'm doing. And some days I'm going to show up and give 120% because I feel great. And some days I'm going to feel like crap and only be able to get 40%. But you know what? Nonetheless, I am showing up because it's a commitment I made to myself. And so I'll summarize it to say, you look at the best sales professionals, the one, not best, but the ones who are most successful, they have their habits and they stick
Mm-hmm.
to them. They honor them. They respect them. They protect them. They don't let anything come between what they've committed to doing and getting it done. So I keep it simple, Pramod, for that exact reason, because some folks will say, oh, well, it's being able to do this training and having this resource, etc. I keep it simple. You do those simple habits every day. Over time, you can't help but be successful.
Yeah, this is so nice. I mean, it's more like there is no rocket science. Keep your basics simple. The commitment
Right.
is very important, and for yourself, it's so nicely put. So I just wanted to understand. The moment you said commitment, I just wanted to understand. There are two things. One is when you say commitment to ourselves, which is a self-discipline. But
Mm.
when you're talking about the team as a company, right? Sales teams face constant pressure to perform, right? Probably because they overcommitted or whatever reasons, right? What are the most common challenges you see, and how do you think the coaching helps overcome these obstacles?
So again, I'm trying to change the narrative in the whole sales profession and how we operate. Of course, there's always going to be pressure there. Companies trying to go public, who are public, they have a board of investors. Right? There's a lot of pressure that's always going to be there. That's not going to change. If you're in sales, you make peace with that. That's the way it is. However, if you want to motivate
Mhm.
your sales folks, right, your sales leaders, I have an issue with this, like quotas. They're important, right? A company has a quota. Okay, hey, our quota is like, let's just keep it simple. Our quota is 10 million this year. We have 10 sales folks. Keep it simple. Each one of you are responsible for $1 million, right? There's your 10 million. I get it, but hear me out. That serves the company, right? I don't know any sales professional who, maybe some, who, hey, here's, you have $1 million quota, and that's going to excite you because the excitement is like, wow, I contributed my 1 million to the company. There's not much enticement there or motivation. Yeah, maybe some money, but you know what? Money only goes so far, right? To say, hey, I'm gonna bring in money, I'm gonna make this money, but your focus is on that quota for the company. What if, and this is the work I do with sales folks I work with, what if you sat down with each individual to
Mhm.
understand each one of those 10 sales folks? Hey, what is your goal this year? I'm sure you have goals for yourself, your family. What's that look like? Are you looking to buy a house? You just have a new kid? You need some help there. You need some finances there. You want to pay off some debt. Maybe you're looking to buy a new car. Maybe you and your significant other want to take a trip this year. Give me a list of what's your goals this year. And I'm not kidding. You sit down with each one on your one-on-one and break it down. Let's talk about this. Okay, X, Y. You make a list. All right. If I'm looking here correctly, man, that means you're gonna need about, based on what you gave me here, you need about 60, 70,000 dollars this year, right, in commissions. And all of a sudden, and I have yet to have this not work, maybe once, and it was a very unique situation. If you look at what they have to create, right, to hit all their personal goals, more often than not, Pramod, it's way more than what the quota is that the company gave them. Meaning, all of a sudden, I help them create their own quota. Hey, this is why I'm showing up every day, to make this money to help me buy my house, to take care of my kids' college, to buy a car, to go on that trip with my spouse. That's what you're showing up every day for. And it just so happens to feed the company's desire for your 1 million in quota. But your focus isn't on the 1 million quota for the company. Your focus is on, I'm out to achieve this money for myself. That's my own personal quota. And I tell you what, Pramon, you want to get people motivated, excited, let them be chasing that. Things that are going to help impact them and their life, not, hey, I made the company $1 million. Thank goodness I still get to keep my job. That's pressure and fears. I get you can get performance from folks that way. I just don't think it's sustainable and long lasting. But if you tie it back to their own personal goals slash their own personal quota, whole different ball game.
That's I mean, that also keeps them motivated all the time, right? Like,
Hundred
you have
percent.
like your family to feed and take care of them, and you have like really want to keep them happy, give the luxuries, everything. I think this is amazing, really nice. Let's go ahead a bit. I just wanted to understand this as well, Mike. With the technology, like right now, it's all AI transforming the whole sales landscape, right? What coaching practices do you think are essential for the sales team to thrive in this new era?
Yeah, AI is changing the game like big time. Like in a good way, but also it could be in a bad way.
Mhm.
But let's just focus on a good. AI is incredible, and so I what I don't want it to be is a crutch for folks to say, hey, I don't get it. I'm afraid, I don't know how to use it, and so that kind of like they're hesitant, and all of a sudden there's they're not using it, and somehow but they feel like they should. So if you're going to use it, and if you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. I think it's impactful. For example, let's just keep it simple. I believe in keeping things simple. You could use AI as simply to help you, yes, craft a better email, right? Obviously, make it your own, personalize it so it's not so scripted from an AI standpoint. But you can use it to craft you some great emails. Like one of the ways I love using it, anyone can do this now with ChatGPT, right? Literally, go and take, like, if you were trying to work with United Airlines, pull up their 10K report, right? And then take the
Mm-hmm.
10K report, feed it into ChatGPT, and then say, hey, based on this 10K report and based on their learning and development objectives for 2025 and what Sounding Board offers from a leadership development standpoint, give me a summary of how we would help them. Right, it blows you away, right? And all of a sudden you have this summary. You don't have to read all 68 pages of the 10K report. You have this
Yeah.
quickly done summary. And by the way, now you can say, hey, put it in bullet form, right? You all of a sudden can send that to these folks you're trying to connect with on that are part of United Airlines. There's ways to use AI that way, right? You can take a call, right? Call summary. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
this call, like, hey, give me what are some patterns? What are some of the top questions that the prospect asked? I say all that, Pramod, to say there's let's not get too carried away. Meaning, like, there's so much that they say complexity is the enemy of execution. Don't let it be so complex that you fear it and you don't use it at all. Take it at its simplest form and utilize it. Last thing I'll say on AI: if you said, "Hey, do I think AI will replace your habits, how you show up, discipline, consistency?" It can't. It can't. Like that. That's the thing with AI. I don't care if you give me AI. I don't care what tool or resource you give me. You can give me all the budget, the ton of budget. If you don't have the consistency, the discipline, the focus, the commitment to actually use what you're given, good luck. It doesn't matter what you're given, you're not going to succeed. And so that's why I laugh at AI, because while I think it's a great resource, there's tons of great resources. But at the core, if you don't have the foundational necessities, the ones I just said,
Mm-hmm.
commitment, discipline, focus, right? It doesn't matter what you present it with, it's not going to work. And that's why the coaching, the work that I do, we start out of the gate with mindset. It starts there. It starts with those habits, because if you don't have that in place, good luck with the rest, including AI.
Very interesting, Mike. Really, I loved it. I just wanted to understand when you said the complexity is something which you often hear. I also wanted to understand, is it also like there is a resistance to adapt the change, or is it always because they feel it is complex?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's both. I think people resist change, and I can speak to myself as well. People resist change one of two reasons. One is because, hey, this is how we've always done it, though. Right? This is how we've always done it. It's worked. Why am I going to change it? Right? It's just resistance to change. That's a human. That's a human. I
Nature
guess
to.
emotion. That's a human action, whatever you want to call it. But I get that. The other one is complexity. The more complex you make something, the more hesitancy there is to utilize it. And so one is just overcoming the fact that, like, look, the world's evolving. I must evolve. If I don't, then I'm going to be left behind. That's just the way it
Mhm.
goes, right? So forget the fact that this is how we've always done it. Sure, but can we make it better? So that's a more of a mindset thing. And that's why, again, before we do anything, we have to work on mindset. But once you work on mindset, even if the mindset's there, okay, I need to use this. It makes sense. I can get better. But then if it's complex, that's your next hurdle. Like, oh man, this is so much here that I'm just gonna I'll come back to it later. And you never come back to it because it's complex. So if you can take any element of anything, right, including AI, just start simple. Use it at its simplest form, and then build from there. Because the more complex it is, there's a higher probability folks don't use it. I can't tell you how many times I've been part of organizations promoted where they're like, hey, we're now using this new resource, and we have the person coming in and they're going to show you the 13 ways you can use it. And while that's fine, you look at the utilization, people just aren't using it because it's just too much. But if they came in and said, look, there's 13 ways of using this thing, we're going to send you some references as far as, like, on your own, go through it, see how you can use it. But today, let's just focus on this one way or these two ways to really begin using it. You do that, your utilization rate to for whatever it is, AI is going to exponentially go up.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Mike. I mean, I really like the way you put it, because what I always probably it is because I mean, I hardly have I've seen it, right. So for me, it is always an under. I mean, I just wanted to understand why is there a bit of resistance? Is it because of this? But I got your point right now. So,
Mm.
Mike, going forward, like, see, you have coached from startups to Fortune 500 companies, right? Every industry is unique. Like, how do you adapt your coaching strategies to meet the diverse needs of these organizations?
It's true, right? Every organization, every industry is unique. But here's what's not unique. And here's what's standard across the board. And this is what I try to focus on. And quite frankly, this is the conversation we have with customers, clients, when they're like, well, do you really understand my industry? There's something to be said there. You want to know the nuances of the industry. But before we even go there, it's really, if you look at any industry, any organization, any leader, their concerns isn't that different than anyone else's concern. They want to attract and retain their top talent. That doesn't
Right.
change from industry to industry. They want to get the most out of their people. They want performance, right? They want to drive performance from
Exactly.
their people, right? Well, how do you
Right.
do that? Well, you invest in them. You create, leadership development through coaching, etc. Okay, performance. They want their people performing, right? They want to make an impact in the business. They want to add to their bottom line. That doesn't change. Hey, we want productivity to go up. Show me a company who doesn't want productivity to go up, right? So we want
Yeah.
we want to create a succession pipeline. We want our leader. We're growing. We need these managers to be our next VPs, etc. So you take these commonalities, you take these patterns. They're the same across any organization. Yes. Then when you get into the weeds, as far as like, yes, but okay, now here's a program we currently have internally, and how could you work with that? Sure, that becomes, then you have to look at that, and you navigate there where you have to. But at the very top of it all, the things that folks are concerned with is not that different. And so that's why, give me any industry, give me airline, give me finance, give me nonprofit. The concerns are the same. And so when you can have that conversation at that level, and say, okay, look, what's the top concerns? Guarantee it's going to be the ones I just mentioned, or a couple of them, right? And then yes, and then you want to understand. Then yes, then you go into the whole sales process, right? Understand the right key stakeholders, what's their budget, timing, need, etc. That's all standard stuff, right? In a sales world. But really, to talk high level game, like, what's the concern? What are your challenges? You're going to find it doesn't matter what industry you're in, Pramod. It's going to be pretty similar across the board.
Very nice. Very. I mean, it's so nicely put, Mike. I think we talked about a lot on coaching and all. Probably I wanted to go on a personal bit with terms of motivation and all. See, sustained motivation and discipline are very crucial in sales, right? What advice do you have for professionals to cultivate and maintain these qualities?
Yeah, excuse me, that's a tough one. Look, I'll be honest. I'll be the first to tell you, maintaining motivation, it's tough. I like to address it, because sometimes when you're not that real, like, oh well, you just get up and know your why and come on, let's go. Life is short. That's, you can do that, and there's something to be said about that. But I like to address the reality of what is, and that is that it's tough to stay motivated. That's just the truth. And I think if people hear that, like, he gets me. He like, okay, finally someone's speaking the truth. So here's what I say to that. While it is tough, there's a way to stay motivated. It's two ways, right? And people say, hey, know your why. And I think that's important, to know your why. And to me, you could say your whys are your goals, right? Like, I have this, my wife and myself right now, we want to buy, our home, right? There's a home we have in mind we want to buy. That drives me. That excites me. That motivates me. We have a trip we're taking with our entire family later this year. That excites me. I can't wait, right? That drives me. That's my why. That motivates me. So it's knowing your why, if that's what you want to call it, or your goals, and making sure they're goals that excite you, right? Not like, oh, I have to pay my bills. I mean, if that
Right.
excites you, great. But goals that excite you, that's number one. Some people call it know your why. The second thing, this is a biggie, Pramod, and people are not going to want to like hearing this. Sometimes I don't like hearing it, but it's the truth. Motivation, it's not a feeling. Sometimes it is. I wake up some days and I'm like, I'm ready to go run 10 miles. I can't wait. And I get out there and I feel great. More often than not, I'm like, I don't want to go run today. I just don't. So it's not a feeling. Motivation is a choice. And like we said earlier, it's a choice to, like, this is what I committed to doing, and this is what I'm doing. And it gets easier as you go, meaning you build that discipline muscle to say, I don't want to go, but I'm going to go. I can't tell you, I've done this so long now, Pramod, that I can't tell you how many mornings I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go run. And my mind's telling me, I don't want to go. Stay in bed. Don't go. My mind's telling me one thing, but my body is getting my sneakers on, putting it's just I've conditioned it. You're going. I don't care what you say. You're going. And so that comes with time, but it comes with understanding that motivation is not a feeling. If you're waiting for a feeling, you're going to be waiting forever. You're going to be disappointed. Motivation is a choice. It's a commitment. You say, I'm going to go, and you go. It's hard at first, but the more you do it, the easier, not easy, the easier it gets.
Wow, Mike. I'm in awe of what you've said. This is very nice. Like motivation keeps coming and going, but like putting up discipline. I mean, you can't really listen to your brain all the time, but you have to control your heart to overcome that and keep pushing yourself. And like you said, we have to enjoy. I mean, like more like work is fun, fun is work kind of attitude is very important in this.
That's right.
It's amazing. Yeah. So Mike, tell me one thing. You are a great fitness enthusiast. How do you see physical health impacting professional performance? So it's more like I mean, as at least as a personally, what I think is in sales and fitness is like so far I was before I met you. I have to put this honestly. I used to feel sales and fitness is more like lightened night, the day and night both can't stay together. This is what I felt. But I just wanted to understand if how do you see physical health impacting the professional performance in sales? Are there any surprising ways your fitness journey has influenced your career in sales?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge correlation, right? I mean, if you feel lousy, you're going to perform lousy. I mean, that's not rocket science, right? Feel like
Yeah.
crap, you're going to perform like crap. So I think a big part of it it's there, right? So physical health and wellness and fitness, it's so important from that standpoint, right? It's just, and again, look, this is rooted in science and physiology. I'm not making this stuff up. Like you can literally go. There's studies upon studies that show. Look, take a 20-minute walk and watch your brain light up with with the different level of enzymes and endorphins, et cetera, that are going to help you feel a little bit more motivated, a little more focused, right? So
Hmm.
that's common sense. We know that, but it's a matter of doing that regularly. So it's just knowing that look, physical fitness and health and taking care of myself, that's going to help me feel better. And if I feel better, I'm going to produce better. I'm going to be able to be more focused, do more. So there's that correlation there, right? Secondly, it's like I can't speak for anyone else, but don't you want to feel the best you can feel? Yes, for your job, but also for yourself, for your family, for your commitments. It's just a way to say, hey, this is me honoring me. There used to be the whole saying, right? Like like it used to be commendable if you put yourself last. Like, oh well, I got everything out of the way, and now it's my turn to go do my thing. I actually don't. I love working with my clients on this. If because I challenge them on this. If you really cared a lot, so much about your family, your significant other, your job, you would actually put yourself in the best possible. You take care of yourself in the best possible way to make sure you're at your best, to give your best to these areas which you have said are the most important. So if they're the most important, wouldn't you want to show up in the best possible way you could to serve those areas of your life? The only way you can do that is if you put yourself first. That's not a selfish statement. That's actually an intelligent statement, a more mature statement to say, you know what, the way I'm going to show up at 100% for all these areas of my life, or close to 100%, is to make sure I take care
Hmm.
of me, my health, wellness, doing the things I must do to feel my best. Um, One last thing I'll say, I think you like, how does that translate into sales? Like we said earlier, Pramod, it's like it's a whole. If I'm disciplined with my workouts, right? If I'm consistent, if I'm focused, that's just going to translate into how I operate at work. I'm going to be consistent at work. I'm going to be focused at work. I'm going to be motivated at work. One last thing I'll say, and this is I'm not asking others to do this, but maybe it's one of the reasons why I keep pushing myself, whether it's through tougher races, longer
Hmm.
races, because that level when I overcome this feat of running 50 miles, right? I'm training for a 100-mile race next year now as we speak. But when I overcome these feats, the level of confidence it gives me to say, hey, you know what? If you did that, what else can you do? Meaning, like in sales, the level of confidence it gives me is through the roof. And so that can't help but translate to say, you know what? That's a huge company. They have over 100,000 employees. How am I going to get into? How am I going to get in there? How am I going to crack the code to get in there? Start to have some conversations. Maybe bring them on as a client. It can be overwhelming, but that same mindset that got me to do that 50-mile race tells me, well, if I could do that, why couldn't I do this? This is challenging. That was challenging. I can do it. Your level of confidence goes up. And so there's a correlation. So again, I'm not asking everyone to go out and run 50, 100 miles, but do that thing that's tough. Challenge yourself in different ways. Build that confidence because I promise you, when you do that, take yourself out of your comfort zone, it's only going to help you professionally in your sales role.
Yeah, I think this is really nice, my, because I even saw it personally as well, where it keeps us motivated or probably like disciplined to achieve these things. And there is a, at the end of the day, there is a sense of achievement. I see the small achievements take us to a bigger achievements. Like you
Sure.
said, if I could do 50 miles, what more can I do, right? I mean, that's a very nicely put. I mean, you question yourself in terms of looking at your even small achievements, right? I mean, really
Right.
nice. I mean, thanks a lot, Mike.
Sure.
Before we wrap, I have three quick rapid fire questions I wanted to ask you, which
Sure.
will be very helpful for our listeners. The first one going like, what's the best sales advice you have ever received in your career?
Sure. And I know these are rapid fire. And because I don't like rules, I'm going to give you two quick ones. Number one is if you want things to get better, you get better. Meaning, don't look out there for things to get better. We need more better leads, more resources. You want things to get better, you get better at your cold calling skills, at your email skills, at your copyright skills. Number one, that's the best piece of advice. As I've gotten better over the years, my results have gotten better. Number one. Secondly, I'll never forget this one. If you're in sales, look at your opportunities, look at your pipeline, look who you're reaching out to. I had a sales leader one time, never forget. He said, Mike, look at all your leads, right? Look at all your opportunities. Which ones, if you had to bet your life on, would you say these for sure are legit opportunities that are coming in? And I said, well, I had 10 opportunities. I know for sure these three. He goes, I want you to spend 80% of your time on those three and the rest 20% of the time. Essentially, what he was saying, and what I'm telling everyone is focus your time on the folks who are engaged, who want what you're offering, who have a need. You know this budget. They're responsive. They're not ghosting you. Maybe there's budget, maybe there's not. Spend your time on the opportunities that are real, that are legit, and less time on the ones where you're trying to convince them why you're the right solution for them, etc.
Amazing, superb, Mike. So, next one. Which book about sales would you recommend everyone should read?
Actually, it's funny. I keep it on my desk. It's Influence. It's called Influence by Robert Cialdini.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Awesome.
Great book, just because you have to understand that how and why people are influenced and why and how they buy. And if you can understand that mindset, it's not your features, your benefits, your pricing. It all starts here, and it's that book is amazing. If you understand how people tick and how they think from an emotional perspective, it'll change the game for you.
Awesome, awesome. I think I'm adding on my list
It's a
right
great book.
away. Last one. What's one tool or the platform every sales team should incorporate into their daily workflow?
In the spirit of what I've been saying all along is keeping it simple, right? Not thinking you need all the resources. I'm probably gonna give you an answer that's so simple and people will probably laugh. Your calendar, your calendar, meaning like you probably have a Google Calendar, Outlook. I don't care what your calendar is. One resource folks should use is their calendar, meaning blocking out time committed to exercise, to prospecting, to follow up emails, use your calendar to hold you accountable. We all have calendars and meetings pop up, so we accept them reactively. I'm asking you to proactively set your calendar, set time. So it's a tool we all have, but it's how we use it that makes a difference.
Awesome. That's very nicely put. The tool you have, but it's like very nice. Thanks a lot, Mike. I mean, this 45 minutes of conversation with you, it feels like I downloaded 20 years of experience within me, and it was really lovely talking to you, Mike. Thanks a lot
Likewise.
for your time, and I loved your having conversation with you. I probably want to chase you again, talk to you,
Sure.
learn a lot of things with you as well. My our viewers, listeners also would love to listen to your conversation and all. Really nice having you. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with us.
Thank you, Pramod. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure being on, and thanks for all your great questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.